Jail. Mental health related calls have Omaha Police dealing with the delicate balancing act between individual rights and community safety. OPD does have a crisis negotiating team to deal with those situations and solve them in a peaceful manner. Our John Chapman reports.
5 years ago, mental health professional and police co-responder Shelley Poole answered a call with an Omaha police officer. A person was having a mental health crisis. Poole is able to help de-escalate the situation. No one is injured. Omaha Police tell us a mental health crisis can cover a variety of situations, ranging from issuing a criminal warrant, domestic violence calls, or a life or death situation.
We have a high volume of mental health calls. That's kind of a nationwide thing right now, something we're seeing in our society. So that's a bigger part of what we do than maybe it has been in years past.
Lately, Omaha Police had to deal with situations that turned violent. Shots were fired, officers were injured, citizens were shot, some died. In the aftermath, it could be police who need the mental health care.
Whenever people are involved in critical incidents, we always have them meet with a psychologist and go through that process, make sure they're handling the trauma and things appropriately and working through that and get them healthy and back to a good spot. So,
Crisis Negotiator Team Commander Lieutenant Joe Nickerson says most of the time the mental health crisis can be handled by simply listening.
Sometimes people just need to be heard. And if you give them time to be heard and be seen and valued for who they are beyond the situation they're dealing with, that can open up a lot of good avenues to a peaceful resolution, which is what we ultimately hope for.
When a crisis is peacefully handled, the work doesn't stop there. Oftentimes, police follow up with the person who needed help.
To just check on, hey, how are you doing? Can we provide you with any resources, connect you to any long-term help? And that's actually helped to decrease some of the calls and also decrease some crime.
In Omaha, I'm John Chapman, First Alert 6.
Omaha Police crisis negotiators go through intense training and often work with professional mental health care co-responders. Some breaking news: a federal